Hi everybody, this is WildStorm Comic Reviews here with a review on Backlash Spider-Man, issue 1 of 2. Now this is an intercompany crossover between Spider-Man from Marvel Comics and Backlash from Image Comics. Yeah, here's the front cover. See, very detailed here. We got Taboo, which is Backlash's partner, and then we got Backlash right here, and then Backlash, his powers are basically like he has these PSI whips, which are like these laser whip weapons. As you can see here, it's coming out of his wrist right here. The laser whip weapons. He can also Backlash can also transform into mist. He can like transform his body into mist, which is pretty cool. And then we got Spider-Man here. Very, very detailed, looking very, very cool. Now, if you're a Spider-Man fan, like I am, you can probably tell that this version of Spider-Man is actually Ben Reilly, as you can tell by his costume here, because Ben Reilly has a very distinctive costume compared to the original Spider-Man. And if you also don't know, Ben Reilly is the clone of Spider-Man, so we're not dealing with the original Peter Parker in this one, we're dealing with Ben Reilly. But yeah, here is a very, very detailed artwork. I mean, look at his mouth. Like, you wouldn't see this type of stuff in a classic Marvel comic book. Like, the art is just so detailed. It has that image quality here. Look at how his mouth, you can see his mouth through his mask. That's always been really cool to me with this cover. You can actually see his mouth here. But then we got the back page, and our villains get revealed for the story. We got Venom, who looks just incredible with this type of artwork. I mean, he looks just great. Very big and very bulky. And this is the classic Venom, by the way. This is Eddie Brock Venom, so he is one of the big villains in this comic book. And then we got Pike, who is the villain for Backlash and Taboo. And he, I think, I'll get into it a little bit later, but yeah, this is the villain, Pike. He has this laser-like staff here. And, yeah. And yeah, this is just an intercompany crossover between Spider-Man and Backlash. Backlash is from Image Comics, Spider-Man is from Marvel. And this is probably my second favorite crossover next to Spider-Man and Batman, honestly. This crossover is very underappreciated in my opinion. Yeah, you always got everyone talking about the Gen 13 Spider-Man crossover, which is another Image Marvel crossover with Spider-Man and the Gen 13 team. And to be honest, that crossover is really bad in my opinion. I think it's honestly kind of trash, and it's not really good. But, you know, if you like it, that's your opinion. But my opinion is I don't really like it. I don't think it's that great. The character of Spider-Man in that book, he's not really well represented. And I'm not really a fan of the Gen 13 team. So, but yeah, this crossover is actually really, really well done. The writing is really good. If you can get past the fact that this is Ben Reilly and not the original Spider-Man, because I know for a lot of people that's a problem, because, you know, they prefer the original Spider-Man. They're not really a big fan of the Ben Reilly Spider-Man. But if you can get past that fact, this crossover is really well done. The writing is really, really good. The art is fantastic. And, yeah, the story is just really straightforward and to the point. It's not complicated. It's your classic intercompany crossover. There aren't any like big stakes in it. It's very simple. You got two superheroes. They team up. They fight the bad guys. It's really, really well done. And this comic is also responsible. Interesting fact: this comic is also responsible for getting me into Image Comics in the first place. Because I picked it up at a comic book store in Houston. I read it, and I didn't know a thing about Backlash. I didn't even really care. But I still enjoyed the crossover because the writing was just so solid, and the art was so good. And I just really enjoyed it. And one day, I don't know, I was digging through my back issues. I was really taking a look at Backlash, and I'm like, you know what, this character, you know, he looks pretty cool, and he kind of, you know, he uses his webs kind of like Spider-Man uses his webs. So I started doing some research into Backlash. I started picking up some back issues of his story, Backlash, the comics from Image. And I'm like, yeah, you know, this guy's pretty cool. The art in this is really well done. And from that point on, I really got into Image Comics. Specifically the early 90s Image Comics. I don't really read their modern stuff. But yeah, this crossover is responsible for me getting into Image in the first place. So that's pretty cool. Image Comics. So yeah, this crossover does mean a lot to me. I wouldn't say mean a lot, but it's just a really well done crossover. It's just really, really good. And the art, the person who drew this, by the way, is a person Image. This is very much an Image comic story, and the person who wrote and drew this book is the guy who writes and draws Backlash, the story for Backlash. So the art is done by an Image artist, and the writing for the story is done by an Image writer, because who is known as Brett Booth. Yeah, so Brett Booth and Steen Ruffner wrote the story for this, and the pencils are done by Brett Booth. And if you're a comic book fan, you probably know who Brett Booth is. I think he drew some issues for Valiant Comics Bloodshot. So yeah, you can just tell the art is really well done here. The Backlash issues just look freaking fantastic. The Backlash comic book series, they look really, really well done. Seeing Spider-Man in this art style looks freaking amazing. Freaking amazing. It looks amazing. So yeah, let's get into the story. So we open our story in New York, and we start with this cool little thing here where it starts out with a Bible verse. It's pretty awesome. Those who hope shall be cut off, and whose trust shall be a spider's web in Job 8:14. So that's cool. I like the fact that it starts with a Bible verse because, you know, I am a follower of Jesus, so, you know, I'm a Christian, so I believe in all that stuff, so I thought that was pretty cool. And it's talking about how people on the outside world think of New York as this glamorous place where people like to hang out and chill, but, you know, the people who live there, it's very much more of a concrete jungle. It's very much the survival of the fittest, you know. You got all the gangs walking around, and you're just kind of trying to eke your way out. You're trying to survive in this big concrete jungle. And this is emphasized by this pretty cool picture of the spider right here. As you can see, there are webs here, and there's this really detailed drawn spider, kind of symbolizing, you know, predators and the survival of the fittest and surviving in New York. But anyways, we get to the story, and we see this older black lady, and she's kind of walking through the alley. And she's like, how am I going to feed my grandchildren? I only got 2 minimum wage jobs. There's no way I'm going to be able to feed my grandchildren on this type of money. There's just no way. But then this criminal comes up, and he's like, oh, you know, we're gonna rob you. You know, we're gonna stop you, and we're gonna do all this. And oh, by the way, if you look closely, you can find this crossover is really, really cool. Like the writing I said is very good. We're gonna see that as we keep going. The art is great, but there are also some Easter eggs here. So as you can see, the DD right here stands for Daredevil. So Brett Booth threw in some Marvel Easter eggs, which I really appreciate. I really, really appreciate. So we keep going. Yeah, Brett Booth does some really cool stuff with Spider-Man in this too, as you'll see. Okay, so this lady, she's like, I've had enough of this crap, and she pulls out her gun, and she's ready to take down this bad guy. The other bad guy grabs her unexpectedly, and the bad guy kind of gives away their names. This guy's Curtis, and I forgot their names. I mean, it doesn't really matter. They're just two bad guys. So the guy captures her, and the other main guy's like, okay, well, you gave us her names. So now we're gonna have to cut you. You know, nothing personal, lady, but you know, we can't have you going around talking about us because you know we don't want to get caught by the cops. So, but anyways, so you see a web. It gets the gun, takes the gun away, and here we got Spider-Man, the Ben Reilly Spider-Man, which is I don't know if I mentioned this before. I probably did, but again, Ben Reilly is the clone of the original Spider-Man. Earlier in the comics, he went by the Scarlet Spider, and then there was this whole thing with the Clone Saga where, you know, they were asking, hey, maybe Ben Reilly is the real Spider-Man. Maybe he is the real deal. Maybe he isn't the clone, and you know, and stuff like that. And so later on in the books, because he was Scarlet Spider first, then he kind of took on the original Spider-Man's mantle. Because Peter was having a baby with Mary Jane at the time. The original Spider-Man was married, so you know Ben Reilly took on the mantle of Spider-Man basically. You know, but it's confused. The whole clone saga is confusing. But anyways, all you gotta know is this is Ben Reilly. He's the clone of Spider-Man, and he's kind of taken on the original Spider-Man's mantle. That's all you really gotta know. So anyways, we get this cool picture, really awesome picture. Like Brett Booth really does some cool stuff with Spider-Man, as shown here. Where Spider-Man's hanging, but he's hanging, you know, but he has all this webs. He has all these webs around him, like an actual spider. You know, you see a spider, they're like kind of in like a web cocoon thing where all the webs are everywhere. And I like how Brett Booth kind of shows this and how he kind of does something different with Spider-Man, where Spider-Man's hanging there, but he has all these webs around him and stuff. It's a really, really cool image. But yeah, but I just want y'all to get a closer look at this. It's kind of hard to see because shadows and stuff, but I just really like this image. It looks so cool. Vinny and Curtis, that's their names. So yeah, he's saying, Vinny and Curtis, what are you doing here robbing this poor old lady? And I'm like, we were just, showing around the neighborhood. They're just making up excuses. But anyway, Spider-Man, he shoots him with his webs. The other guy tries to attack him. And then Spider-Man, easily just takes him out. He just takes him out just like that. And then he's like, lady, you should be more careful while you're out walking the streets. And she says, thank you. And then she goes, maybe you're not as bad as the papers make you out to be. And Spider-Man goes, you really shouldn't trust the newspapers, especially the Bugle. And she's like, who's crying now? Talking to the bad guys, who tried to rob her earlier. So yeah, it's just Spidey doing his usual stuff, saving the day. But then we get to this amazing, look at this, guys. Look how awesome this is. This amazing splash page of Spider-Man right here. And I'm not going to go, okay, so this is basically just talking about the clone stuff that happened, the clone saga. Basically, Spider-Man's basically talking about how, okay, so, for years, I thought I was the clone of Spider-Man. For years, I thought I was the clone of him, but it turns out that I was the actual Spider-Man. But the clone of Spider-Man... Okay, so this is kind of hard to explain. The Clone Saga has always been kind of confusing, so but I'm just gonna sum this part up. So basically, Ben Reilly's just saying the original Spider-Man, he had a baby with Mary Jane, so he couldn't no longer be Spider-Man. So then basically, Ben Reilly took up the mantle of the original Spider-Man, and now he is the original Spider-Man. So yeah, the original Spider-Man got married, he had a kid, he didn't really have time to be Spider-Man. So Ben Reilly's like, you know what? I'll take your place. I'll be Spider-Man for now. While you're having your baby with Mary Jane, I'll take up the mantle of Spider-Man, and I'll continue to save lives, and I'll continue to do that. So basically, Ben Reilly is taking up the mantle for the original Spider-Man, for Peter Parker. He's taking up Peter Parker's mantle as Spider-Man, and is kind of doing his thing because Peter Parker married Mary Jane, and he has a baby, and he has all this other stuff going on. So that's all you need to know. Yeah, the Clone Saga stuff is just confusing in general. I think that's why a lot of people don't like it. Me included, I never really cared for it. It's not bad, but it's not my thing. But yeah, so it's basically just, Spider-Man explaining, yeah, I've taken on Peter Parker's mantle as Spider-Man because he's just busy with Mary Jane and his new baby. So as Ben Reilly, I'm going to take over Peter Parker's mantle for now. And now moving on to the next scene, we get the scene where these FBI agent-looking types are getting assassinated. And these guys are also, okay, so these guys, for those that don't know, these FBI guys, they work for an organization called the Cabal, which is this evil organization that is in the Backlash comics. And Backlash is also, I wanted to make it clear, Backlash is from Image Comics, but he's also from the WildStorm universe, which is the universe that Jim Lee created back when he worked with Image Comics. WildStorm is owned by DC now. If you've seen my earlier reviews, Grifter is also part of the Image Wildstorm universe. So there are tons of other universes. There's the Top Cow universe in Image. There's the Spawn stuff with Tom McFarlane. There's a Savage Dragon, and they're all part of the Image Comics. They're all part of Image Comics, but they each inhabit their own separate universe. So Top Cow, Wildstorm, all that stuff. So, but anyways, yeah, these are the agents for the Cabal, which is an evil organization in the Backlash comics, and I guess Wildstorm in general. We see these technicians are frightened. And one of them gets stabbed by this guy. You can't really see. I do love the reflection in his glasses, though. That's pretty freaking awesome. But yeah, and then we see the guy who stabs the other guy is Pike, who was the villain of Backlash, and Pike is basically. Backlash and Pike. Okay, so Backlash and Pike, real quick. I just want to give some added detail. Backlash is a half human, half cherubim. So, Backlash is cherubim. The cherubim are basically this a humanoid alien species. They live for thousands of years, and they're basically at war. They're basically an alien species who were at war with the Daemonites, who are like this rival alien species, and they've basically been at war with each other for centuries. If the Daemonite name sounds familiar, you probably heard of them from Wildcats, because the Daemonites are like one of their major villains. The major villain of the Wildcats, the Daemonites. And so Backlash is half Caribbean, so he's been around for like thousands of years. And Pike is also Caribbean, but he is a traitor to the Caribbeans because he allied himself with the Caribbean's enemies, which is the Daemonites. So he's kind of a rogue. Pike is a rogue Caribbean. Yep. So yeah, anyways, just want to give you some extra added information about this character. So anyways, Pike is like, I don't have time for this. I'm looking for Mark Slayton and Amanda Reed. They work for PSI, and they're looking to and they help to shut down like corporate supporters of the Cabal. And the Cabal is a Pike's employer. So he's like, I'm looking for them. I want to kill them. So you better give me some information on them, since they shut down the Cabal's corporate supporters. And the technician's like, dude, I don't know anything about that. I'm just a scientist guy. I'm a technician. I don't know anything. And he's like, yep, bad choice. Wrong choice of words. And he's about to kill the guy until suddenly he hears some noises outside, and he like shoves the guy into the screen. And he's like, what's going on here? The Cabal is really getting sloppy with their new recruits. That's pretty funny. And we see a little symbiote strand, which could only belong to Venom. And Venom looks just freaking fantastic in this book. I swear, oh man, he just looks great. The only problem I have with him, a couple problems. I do have a couple of nitpicks with this crossover, but they're tiny. They're tiny. Because this crossover is just freaking amazing. So, but the only problem I have with Venom's design here at all is the fact that his spit is blue and not green slime. Because I always like so if you read Spider-Man, read Venom comics, you know that, in the movie he didn't have it either, but in the comics he has like that green alien slime that comes out of his mouth. And I've always personally loved that. It really adds to the fact that he's kind of a symbiote alien creature. But they gave him blue spit, which, again, not a big deal. It's really a nitpick. Because the movie did the same thing, and it didn't really bother me at all. But would I have preferred the green mouth slime? Yes. But honestly, what can I say? He looks freaking amazing. He looks freaking incredible with Brett Booth's artwork. But anyways, enough of me, kissing Venom's butt in this book here. Anyways, Venom's like, and also, okay, sorry. Anyways, so Venom, the reason why Venom is here is because he's looking for a girl. He's looking for a lady who happens to apparently possess a symbiote similar to that in nature of his own. So the reason Venom's here is because he thinks that this lady who possesses the symbiote is possibly an offspring of Carnage. So that's why Venom is back in New York. He's back in New York because he thinks, because there's this woman who possesses a symbiote, and he thinks that lady is probably a spawn of Carnage, similar to like Scream or Lasher or any of those. So yeah, that's why Venom is here. And I love in here, I'll let y'all read the dialogue just because I want to make sure y'all get what he's saying. Sorry, my hand's a little shaky from holding the phone. Nothing I can really do about that. But yeah, so anyways, let me steady this. But here's the reason why he's here, because I don't want people to get confused. Because I wanted to say real quick, I love the fact that the writer gives Venom a real motivation for being here, like a real reason for being in New York and being with and crossing over with these characters. Like, you could throw Venom, here's the thing with Venom, he's so popular, even back in the 90s, that you could throw him in for any reason. You didn't even have to give Venom a reason to be in this book. You could just say, oh, Venom, there's this, I'm making up an example, there's this chocolate shop in New York, so that's why Venom is here. Or, I don't know, Spider-Man's, honestly, you could just say that, well, Spider-Man's in this book, so of course Venom's going to be in it. You could just make up some lame reason as to why he's here. But the thing I love about how Brett Booth and Sean Ruffner, how they write the story, is they give Venom a real, not only does Venom look amazing, but they give him a real reason as to why he's here. It isn't like the Marvel vs. DC All Access, where Venom fights Superman, and Venom just shows out of nowhere. Like, Venom just shows out of nowhere for no reason, and that's why he's in Metropolis, right? With the Marvel DC All Access crossover. Like, no, this book actually gives him a real reason as to why he's here. So I like that. Because Venom is here because he senses a woman with the symbiote who also lives here, who also might be of relation to Carnage. So I like the fact that they give him a reason as to why he's here. But funny enough, the woman that Venom is searching for with the symbiote, Pike is also searching for the same woman. So of course, they start duking it out in battle. And I mean, of course, Pike gets his butt kicked because, I mean, Pike is just, yeah, he's a cherubim, he's alien, but Venom, obviously is a lot stronger, so he takes Pike out with ease. And Pike is like, okay, here's the problem, because Venom's like, why don't we just kill you and why don't we go find the woman ourselves? And Pike is like, well, if you kill me, you lose the only person who knows this woman as much as she knows herself, the woman with the symbiote. So, if you kill me, you lose how to track the woman and what she's about and how she thinks. So Venom decides to team up with Pike to find the woman. Venom teams up with Pike to find the woman with the symbiote. So, because Pike is looking for the same woman. So we get to the JFK airport, and we find out that we see these two people leaving the airplane. One of them happens to be Mark Slayton, which is Backlash from the front cover. And then we got Amanda Reed, who is Taboo. And basically, okay, so Backlash and Taboo, I'm not going to get into all their whole story because I'll probably be reviewing the Backlash solo series soon anyways. At some point down the line, I'm not going to make any promises, but Backlash and Taboo, they work for this organization called PSI, Paranormal Search and Investigations. And PSI basically, they research like aliens and mysterious happenings and basically stuff like that. So like aliens, UFOs, and everything. That's what PSI does. They aliens, UFOs, paranormal stuff. And so Backlash and Taboo work for them. So work for PSI. So anyways, they're talking and they're like, they're basically talking about, you got the two PSI agents here. They're talking about the massacre at the lab with Venom and Pike, and they're like, we need you and Miss Reed to go investigate. But then, Amanda, the redhead, she's like, I'd love to go with you, Mark, but I have to make a few errands to run. I gotta go, I got a few personal errands I'd like to run because I haven't been back to New York in a few years, since being with you. So plus New York is my hometown. I just want to run a couple personal errands. And so Backlash is like, are you sure? She goes, yeah, I need to do this. So then we see Taboo run off. And we get this funny joke with Backlash and one of the agents here where he goes, do PSI ops in Washington always part company that way, Colonel? Because you see them kissing. He goes, don't worry, Hopper. I have no intention of showing you the same treatment. And it's funny. The humor in this is also pretty funny. And Spider-Man even has a couple good funny jokes in this. But anyways, we see Eddie Brock in the background here. So that's pretty cool. But anyways, we get to where the PSI lab massacre happened earlier in the story. Basically, Mark Slayton, Backlash, just they're PSI agents, Backlash and Taboo. They're PSI agents, so they kind of act as FBI agents, I guess. I guess it's kind of like I never watched the show, but the X-Files, because I think they're like FBI agents in that show, and they kind of do the whole paranormal thing. So this is kind of like that, basically. So anyways, Backlash is kind of going over the situation. He's like, it's like, okay, so who did this? Like, they're going over the situation. It's like, okay, so basically, what happened to these technicians, right? What happened to these technicians? Why are they mauled and why are they skinned? And like, some of these people work for the Cabal, so, but for some reason they're skinned and they're tortured and everything, and it's weird. And, Mark Backlash is basically going, okay, so we know Pike gets behind this, right? We know Pike gets behind this, and the Cabal are here. The Cabal and Pike are probably after us because, me and Amanda, we helped to shut down the corporate supporters who were supporting the Cabal. So that's probably why Pike was after us, and that's probably why he killed those technicians, because he was trying to find us, me and Taboo. But, it still doesn't explain why, because why would Pike go ahead and go kill his own Cabal agents, right? Like, why would he kill his own Cabal agents, and why would he leave one alive, and all that other stuff? So they're like, okay, so there has to be like a third party here, basically. And, they're looking, and it's like, oh, there's Pike, but where's the third party? and they find out that the third party is Venom. So, yeah, so you can see it's like, and I like the fact that Brett Booth kind of makes Venom look all shadowy. Like Venom's like a shadow in the background. Like Brett Booth does some really creative stuff with Venom and Spider-Man in this, and I like the fact that he makes Venom look like this kind of shadow silhouette thing. But yeah, anyways, I feel like I messed that up. But anyways, just want to go over real quick again. So Mark was there. He was looking over the Mark Slayton, who was Backlash, the older guy here. Mark Slayton, Backlash. He was, he was looking over the cabal, the crime scene that was earlier in the story where Pike was killing the technicians. He realized that it was probably Pike and the cabal. They were after him and Amanda Reed, but then he sees, Pike's own agents mauled and killed, and he's like, well, who did this? And he finds out that the third party did this. But, okay, anyways, we get to the next scene. And we see Taboo Amanda Reed at the cemetery. This is one of her errands. And the thing that this book does so well, especially compared to that awful Gen 13 Spider-Man book, is that if you're not a fan of Backlash, you can still enjoy this crossover. But the thing that I like about this book is that it makes an effort to get you into these other characters. The book actually makes an effort to make Backlash and Taboo interesting characters. To those who don't know the characters, this book does a really good job at making you want to learn more about these characters and make you interested in these characters. And as we see here, it basically dives into Taboo and some of Backlash's backstory. So basically, Taboo explains she's at the cemetery, she's at her dad's grave, and she basically goes, sorry I haven't been here in 4 years. Been on the run with this guy named Mark Slayton, Backlash. I was a she goes, I was with this guy named Backlash. I was framed for murder. And then me and this Backlash guy, Mark Slayton, we made a deal that if I helped him kill the guy who almost tried to destroy his wife, he would free me from prison and get my name cleared. And yeah, so that's basically what happened. And she's basically like, and the sad thing is that my partner Backlash, even though we killed the guy who tried to murder his wife ended up dying a few months later anyways. And, and I tried to tell Mark that, death is a part of life. You just need to move on. The same talk you gave me, Dad. Remember? Like when my mother died, the same talk you gave me. How I should just move on with my life and forget my mom and just move on. The funny thing about that, Dad, is that you never practice what you preach. You'd say, oh, we need to move on from your mother's death. But no, you just be too busy sipping back on that bottle, right? And she basically talks about how, I hate you for that. I hate the fact that, you never took more care of me and that you were always drunk all the time because of my mother's death. How you weren't always there for me. You should have been there for me because you're my dad. And, she's like, screw you, basically, Yeah, this book just does a really good job of, again, if you don't know anything about Backlash, you're still going to enjoy this book because of the writing and the strong artwork. But I love the fact that Brett Booth tries to make you interested in his own character. And he gives you this backstory on Taboo and Backlash for you to be like, oh, cool, so these characters, these Backlash and Taboo, they actually have an interesting backstory. They actually have an interesting... they actually have an interesting origin, interesting background, interesting personalities and characterization. And I just love the fact that Brett Booth, even though this is a Spider-Man crossover, they try to actually make the lesser-known characters from Image, Backlash and Taboo, interesting. They try to actually get the audience to be like, oh, these original characters, Spider-Man is awesome. Because let's be honest, a lot of people probably read this crossover for Spider-Man. If you're a Marvel fan especially, you read this for Spider-Man. And Venom and stuff like that. But I just love how Brett Booth, he tries to make his own characters stand out. He tries to make his own characters interesting in this crossover and not just have it focus on Spider-Man and, just being, butt kissing up to Spider-Man the whole time because he's the more popular character. I love how he makes his own characters try to stand out and be interesting to those who don't know who Backlash and Taboo are. And this is Taboo, by the way. Yeah, so... Anyways, Taboo's like, I've had enough, I'm ready to leave the cemetery and move on, and everything's going, she's like, let's just meet Backlash, Mark Slayton at the hotel, and let's just do that, I've had a long day, And she goes, "Hey, are you listening to me, Westwood?" You know, one of the PSI agents, "Westwood, are you listening?" But then you come to find out that it's not Westwood. Because, you know, as you can see, if you see closely back here, Westwood's kind of dead, like just laying down right here. We find out that the person driving the car is none other than Venom, Eddie Brock. And the symbiote forms on him, and you can see trouble is about to brew. But anyways, we get to this next section, and we see Ben Reilly walking to his work at the Daily Grind, which again I didn't really read a lot of the Ben Reilly books, but I believe the Daily Grind, Ben Reilly works at a coffee shop. He doesn't work at the Daily Bugle like Peter Parker, because that'd be too suspicious. And plus, he looks too much like Peter Parker, so that would cause a lot of suspicion around people. So he works at a coffee shop, I think, called the Daily Grind. He talks about how, you know, I shouldn't have, you know, I know I shouldn't have stayed up and watched, you know, the Letterman, I believe. I shouldn't have stayed up and watched Letterman, but, you know, it's nice to unwind after, you know, being Spider-Man all day and all night. So he basically talks about how, you know, I've got some really big shoes to fill since Peter retired from being Spider-Man and got married to Mary Jane, and they're having a baby. And I've got some really big shoes to fill as the new Spider-Man, because, you know, Ben Reilly's a clone. And he talked about how, you know, maybe I should just kept my Scarlet Spider suit. When all of a sudden his, you know, his monologue is broken up when a limousine, like, crashed into the back. I love the fact that he's wearing a Fantastic Four shirt, too, by the way. That's really cool. The art on this is just really, really good. Yeah, but we see the limo crash into the building here. We see Venom break out of the limo, or Fist break to the top of the limo, and we see Venom is holding Taboo hostage. And yeah, this is what Taboo looks like when she you know, transforms into superhero mode. So Amanda Reed is the alter ego of Taboo, just like Mark Slayton, the old guy, is the alter ego of Backlash. You know, like with Peter Parker Spider-Man. Yeah. So anyways, Venom has her hostage, but of course Taboo is not going out without a fight. You know, she starts like kicking Venom and punching him, and we get this really cool action sequence. And Ben Reilly here is like, I don't know who that lady is, but she needs my help, so I'm gonna go help her. You know, because he's Spider-Man. You know, he always does the right thing. And Venom starts attacking Taboo, and and Taboo's like, oh yeah, and she uses some of her claws here to cut Venom. And the Venom throws a punch back at her. She's like, you know, because again, the reason why Venom is here, the reason why he's even in New York in the first place, is because you know, he's trying to track this woman down who wears a symbiote that has some relation, who wears a symbiote that has some relation to his, or he thinks that the woman who wears a symbiote has some relation to his. He thinks Taboo is basically like a spawn of Carnage, like a Scream or like Lash or any of that stuff. And Taboo, of course, is confused because she's like you know, who or what is a Carnage? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And okay, I want to save it till later, but I want to get into this real quick so I don't confuse my listeners. So, okay, it's basically Amanda Reed, who is Taboo. Her powers are that Taboo basically has a vampiric symbiote. So the cool thing about Taboo is that her symbiote, she has a symbiote like Venom's, but the difference is Venom, right? Eddie Brock. The Venom symbiote is an alien symbiote. It's an alien symbiote, so it's from outer space. Taboo's symbiote is derived from vampiric DNA, so her symbiote comes from vampire DNA. So what's cool about that is that Amanda Reed, Taboo, her symbiote has vampire DNA in it. Her symbiote has the essence of a vampire in the symbiotic suit. So basically, kind of like the alien symbiote with Venom. How Venom, you know, Venom in some of the comics, like, and again, some of these I haven't read, but I have heard about how, you know, Venom, there are times where Venom has taken over Eddie Brock's personality and has kind of changed it, and has kind of, you know, done some stuff with it. Same thing with Taboo. She has this thing called the Blood Rage, which is when her vampire symbiote tries to take her over, basically, and tries to control her. Because, see, her vampire symbiote has, like, a vampire trapped within it, and that vampire essence that's in the suit tries to take her over, tries to control her, and tries to consume her. And that's what's known as the Blood Rage. And, again, the Blood Rage is when the vampire that's trapped within the vampire DNA that's trapped within that vampire symbiote tries to take her over and control Amanda Reed / Taboo. So sorry if I didn't make that clear enough, but I'll talk about it again because it comes in the story later. But all you need to know right now is that Amanda Reed, whose alter ego is Taboo, her powers is that she has a vampiric symbiote, which is a vampire symbiote. So, and that's why Venom thinks, because she has a symbiote, he thinks she's the spawn of Carnage. But no, she does have a symbiote. He is right about that. But her symbiote is made out of vampire DNA. It's not alien. So, but anyways, I just wanted to get into that real quick. I'm sorry if I made that confusing. Anyways, so Spider-Man shoots a web at Venom's hand. And Spider-Man tries to, stop Venom. He's like, you shouldn't harm a lady, He's like, this has nothing to do with you, Wall Crawler. This woman is a symbiote spawn of Carnage, and I need to deal with her myself. And Spider-Man's like, sorry, Venom, I can't let you do that. And Venom's like, yeah, well, I guess we'll have to destroy you. So then, he pulls his arm, and then Spider-Man does a flip, and he, kicks Venom in the face. And, a battle ensues. Oh, skip the page. Battle ensues. And, there's a page. No, we're good. Okay, so battle ensues. Spider-Man helps out Taboo, and they kind of, introduce themselves. And Spider-Man's like, I'm not really getting any even if she is a spawn of Carnage, I'm not getting any bad vibes off of her. So Spider-Man's like, you know what? I'll help this lady out. I'll help her defeat Venom. So Taboo and Spider-Man team up to fight Venom. And Spider-Man punches him, and Taboo uses her claws to, slice at him. And it's funny. There's this funny little joke here because Spider-Man's like, Venom, what's happening? Venom never goes down that easily. Taboo's like, you call that easy? And forget the dog. Anyways, so they're talking, and then they see a person in the background who we see is Pike, and she's like, it's good to see you again, Taboo. Since you were my little assistant years ago, it's nice to see you again. And you see this lady, and we got this baby here. And Taboo's like, why don't we up the stakes? And he pushes the baby out into the street. Spider-Man sees this, of course, and goes to save the baby, which he does. And saves the baby. And basically, Pike and Venom run off with Taboo. Here's one of the criticisms I wanted to get into. One of the little small nitpicks of this book is that I don't like Venom's, he acts like Venom pretty much in this book. He still talks about innocence and how he wants to protect stuff. He's very much in his, this is when Venom is still in his lethal protector phase. The nitpick that I have with this, though, is the fact that, Venom, if you know Venom and you read the solo comics like Lethal Protector, Planet of the Symbiotes, yada, yada, yada. Venom's all about protecting innocence. He's all about, he's an anti-hero. He kills the bad guys, which is wrong, but he still, cares about innocence. He still saves innocence, all this other stuff. That's Venom's personality. He's very much an anti-hero. But the problem with this is that Venom, which I kind of get, I kind of get why he teams up with Pike. I'm not really nitpicky against that because Venom, him teaming up with a bad guy is kind of weird for him. But at the same time, he is trying to get to, he thinks Taboo was the spawn of Carnage. So in my opinion, I feel like he would kind of do anything to take Taboo down, thinking that she's the spawn of Carnage. I could see him teaming up with Pike just to try to take her down because Venom is very much against Carnage, and he's very much against any spawns of Carnage. So, of course, he'd probably do anything to get rid of them because he sees them as kind of a shame and an embarrassment. So, him teaming up with Pike, I can kind of see as realistic because, yeah, Pike's a bad guy and he's evil, and Venom hates people who kill innocents. But at the same time, Venom obviously wants to get rid of Taboo because he thinks she's a spawn he thinks that she is a spawn of Carnage. So, it kind of makes sense because he hates Carnage and he spawns of Carnages. So, it makes sense that he would want to team up with him for that reason. But the thing I don't like, the nitpick I got and I don't like, is the fact that Pike pushes the baby into the street and Venom does absolutely nothing. He doesn't question. Oh, where's the photo? Okay, so he pushes the baby. Baby goes onto the street. And, Venom's just sitting there smiling. That's the one nitpick I have is that, yeah, okay, you can argue, and I agree, Venom teamed up with Pike to take down a supposed spawn of Carnage. I can see that. But the fact that Pike pushes a baby onto the street and Venom does absolutely nothing but smile the whole time, that I have a problem with. Because Venom, if Venom saw this happening, he would like instantly kill Pike. He would save the baby, and he would just straight up murder Pike for that. Like Venom is all about protecting. Venom is kind of a psychopath, but he's a good psychopath. He's all about protecting innocent people and innocent bystanders. And yeah, he kills the bad guys, which is, depending on where you sit, it's morally wrong. But at the end of the day, he cares about innocents, especially babies. And just to see him sitting there smiling about it, yeah, that's a little weird. That's a little off for Venom for me. I don't really agree with that. But again, that's a nitpick. That's a straight up nitpick. So, anyways, we continue the story, and yeah. So Mark is just he's talking about how, who's this Venom guy? What's he about? I need you guys to pull up some files on this Venom guy. And they're like, yep, we will do that. We'll send you a hard facts copy of this Venom creature, because Mark wants to do more research about him, obviously. We get to the scene where Mark sees the crash limo, Backlash. Mark Slayton is Backlash. Yeah, we see this crash limo here, and Mark's like, what's going on here? What happened? He's talking to this kid, and the kid explains all of what we saw earlier, how Taboo was fighting Venom, and Spider-Man showed up to help her out. But then Mark's walking by, and he sees a bit of the Venom suit. And he's like, oh, what is this ebony goop stuff? And then Ben Reilly sees this, and he pushes Mark out of the way before the suit's able to, bond to Backlash, basically. And the suit kind of dies and starts to weaken. And what's cool is that Brett Booth, I guess he studied Spider-Man and Venom, because he kind of shows his knowledge here. And he's basically, and Ben Reilly is basically like, yeah, so the cool thing I like about this story is that Brett Booth actually shows his knowledge off for Spider-Man and Venom in the lore, or at least I feel like he knows some knowledge about Spider-Man and Venom, because there's this little dialogue by Ben Reilly where he states a woman in a Venom suit that's not possible. Venom should be permanently bonded to Eddie Brock by now. There shouldn't be a piece of Venom shouldn't be able to separate with Eddie Brock. Venom is permanently bonded to Venom at this point, so why would there be a piece of the suit separated from right here? So I kind of like that. I feel like Brett Booth kind of acknowledges that, yeah, he knows a little bit about Spider-Man and Venom, so I thought this scene was cool. But anyways, Ben Reilly sees Backlash, and Backlash is like, hey, where you going, kid? I need to talk to you. And Backlash kind of connects the dots, and he goes, for a kid weighing $160, he sure is strong. He knocked me a good 10 feet from that stuff before I even saw him. And, and they're basically talking about how, sir, you want me to catch him? And he's like, no, just leave him. I've done enough for one day. Get a team up here, and we'll see if there's anything left. And then we see Spider-Man on the next scene, and he goes, I don't know who that old guy was, but one phone call, we got a bunch of FBI agents swirling the place. And, and Spider-Man, of course, is looking for the piece of the Venom symbiote, but he can't find it. So he assumes the FBI took it. And he's like, those guys don't know what they're doing with that stuff. The Venom symbiote is dangerous. Because, of course, the Venom suit bonded with Spider-Man and tried to take him over. Spider-Man got rid of this Venom symbiote, and then it bonded to Venom. So, of course, Spider-Man knows how much trouble the Venom symbiote is. But then he's also like, you know what? They're FBI agents, supposedly, so maybe they'll take care of the Venom symbiote. Maybe they'll find a cure for it. They'll destroy it, whatever. Maybe I should go hang out with Daredevil and see what he's up to. Again, another little Easter egg. So that's pretty cool. I really like the Marvel Easter eggs thrown in here. But anyways, we get the scene where Backlash shows up out of nowhere. And he's like, I was about to give up on you, Web Slinger. And then Spider-Man's like, what? Who the heck are you? So then Backlash explains his story. He basically goes, all you need to know, I'll keep it brief. All you need to know is my name is Backlash. Pike, all you need to know is that I'm Backlash. Pike and Venom have my partner, and I need you to help me stop them and save her. And then Spider-Man's like, first off, Backlash, I don't know who you are. And yeah, I'm going to say no. I don't really feel like teaming up with you. I don't know who you are. You just showed up out of nowhere. I don't really trust you. And then Backlash is like, I'm not giving you a choice, Web Slinger. And he shoots his laser whip at him. Spider-Man jumps away from it. And Spider-Man goes, no means no. No means no. Don't you know that? Like, no, I'm not helping you out. And Backlash is like, I don't remember giving you a choice. And he fires another whip at him, at Spider-Man. Spider-Man shoots a couple well-placed webs at Backlash. But then Backlash uses his, again, like I said earlier in the book, Backlash has this kind of mist ability where he can transform into mist. And so Backlash uses that power, and he's able to get out of Spider-Man's web. Spider-Man's like, what the heck is this? And then Backlash is like, okay, this guy's fast, this guy's strong, this guy's agile, he's obviously had practice. I'm only going to get one more shot at taking this guy down. And so Backlash fires another PSI whip, one of his laser whips. And Spider-Man jumps and he's all cocky. He goes, no wonder I've never heard of you. You completely missed me. And then I like this because Backlash is like, I wasn't aiming for you, smart mouth. And he hits the water tower and it like drenches Spider-Man. Like it's great. I just love the fact that, because in this book, Brett Booth and Sean Ruffner, the writers, they could have easily made Spider-Man the top dog. Yeah, you got the property of Spider-Man. You could have easily made Spider-Man like the big star of this book. You could have had Spider-Man easily beat Backlash, made him the big star of this book. But again, I like the fact that Brett Booth's original character actually gets the drop on Spider-Man, and he ends up just soaking him in water. I think it's really cool. I like the fact that, Spider-Man doesn't get his, his whole butt kissed throughout this whole book, and he just doesn't easily take down Backlash. They don't try to give Spider-Man like the praise in this book. They don't try to give him so much praise in this book that he overshadows Backlash in this book. That he overshadows the lesser known character. So I think that's really cool. Anyways, we get to the scene here. Backlash is like, I don't really care what the New York's Finest or the papers think of you. I just really need your help in saving my friend. I can't take on both Venom and Pike alone. Could you please help me? And he's like, Backlash is like, Spider-Man's like, keep talking. And he goes, I think this has something to do with the fact that me and Taboo, we shut down some of the corporate supporters of the Cabal, and that's why Pike is after us. And also Taboo's former ties with the Cabal. I think that's why Pike is after us. And so Spider-Man's like, you know what? Why not? Let's shake on it and let's do our thing. So they team up. And I think this is a reference, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is a reference to, so there was this is one of Venom's very first appearances in the comics, right? So, I don't remember what issue this is, but there was a comic book, one of them, probably Venom's very first appearance, where there was a scene in one of the Spider-Man comic books where Mary Jane was in a room by herself, and she's like, where am I at? This is in one of the earlier Spider-Man comics, where Mary Jane was in some kind of room, she's like, where am I at? And then she's like, who kidnapped me? Who did this? And we see that there's this shadow, Venom is kind of poking out, and she goes, hey, Mary Jane, you want to tell me where your boyfriend is? And it's a very creepy scene where Mary Jane's like in a room with Venom all by herself, and Venom's kind of interrogating her, like, you better tell me where your boyfriend is so I can kill him, Spider-Man. So I feel like this right here is a reference to that scene, one of the earlier comic books with Venom and Mary Jane, except this one has Taboo and, Taboo and Venom. So the redhead is replaced by another redhead, basically. So I feel like it's a reference to that earlier scene in the Spider-Man comic. Which, if it is, that's really, really cool. Again, it tells me through reading this book that Brett Booth, not only is he really good with his own characters, Backlash and Taboo, his original created characters, but he obviously knows a lot about Venom and Spider-Man as well, and that knowledge really shines through in this book. So yeah, that's the end of issue 1 of 2. That was Backlash Spider-Man, and I hope I did a good job of making you guys interested in this book and telling you about it. I'm sorry if I messed some stuff up today. Some days I'm really on point with my reviews. Some days I kind of mix up my words and it gets confusing. But real quick, Backlash Spider-Man, it's a really, really good crossover book. It's very, very slept on, in my opinion. The writing, here are the people who do the book. Hold on just a second. Here we got the people. Okay, so the story was done by Sean Ruffner and Brett Booth. Pencils by Brett Booth. You got the inks here, colors. And yep. WildStorm and Image. So this book was made. This book was very much a WildStorm and Image book, but it borrowed characters from the Spider-Man universe like Venom and Spider-Man. So this crossover book was very much made by Image. Marvel just kind of let them use their characters. But anyways. This book is awesome. Nobody ever talks about this crossover at all. The crossover I always see the most with Spider-Man, with an Image character and a Spider-Man character, is Gen 13 Spider-Man, which in my opinion, compared to this, is absolute trash. This book is really, really good. The writing is really, really good. The characters are great. I love the fact that, Brett Booth does such a good job with the story and the artwork. Spider-Man, the artwork is just fantastic in this. This is something that you wouldn't see in a Marvel comic book because of how detailed the art is. Spider-Man and Venom are written really well, except for that one nitpick I had with Venom where, Pike pushes the baby in the street and Venom doesn't do anything but just smile the whole time. In reality, Venom, if he saw Pike do that, no matter if he was teaming up with him or not, if Venom saw Pike push a baby into the street like that, Venom would have killed him. Like right then and there. Venom's all about protecting innocence. And a baby, Venom would have taken out Pike just like that. But instead, Venom just kind of stands there and smiles, which didn't really kind of sit right with me. But other than that, Venom is Venom. Spider-Man is Spider-Man, If you get past the fact that he's Ben Reilly, he's pretty much Spider-Man. He acts like Spider-Man in his original comics. Venom is still all about protecting innocence and stuff. He still has that personality. Venom has an actual motivation as to why he's in the story, instead of just putting him in for like a quick cash grab. Because let's be honest, Venom, you could put him in any book and he would sell because he's that popular of a character. Even back in the 90s when this was made, he was a popular enough character. You could put him in anything and you would just make money. It's that simple. But no, Brett Booth actually gives him a real reason as to why he's here. He's like, oh, there's this woman here and she has a symbiote and she's probably in relation to Carnage. So basically, she's probably a spawn of Carnage and we have to kill her. So basically Venom's like, there's a woman in New York. She bears a symbiote that's probably related to our own. So she's probably a spawn of Carnage. So we have to go in and we have to kill her because we hate Carnage and we hate any spawns of Carnage. But what's funny is that, he's right. The lady has a symbiote. Venom is right about that. But the problem is that her symbiote is made from vampire DNA. It's not alien related. It's not related to Venom's symbiote at all. So, he's right about the fact that she has a symbiote, but she's not a spawn of Carnage. She has a vampire symbiote. So, the fact that they gave Venom a good reason as to being in this crossover is great. And the knowledge that Brett Booth shows for Spider-Man is awesome too. Like the fact that, Venom is bonded to Eddie Brock so long. Why would a clump of Venom is permanently bonded to Eddie Brock, so why would a clump of Venom symbiote be on the ground? Stuff like that. Little references in the ending reference, and I don't know. I just feel like Brett Booth really understands Spider-Man, and as well as his own original characters. And again, I like the fact that this whole book just isn't about how, because in a crossover it would be so easy. Like let's be honest. Back in the 90s, Image actually was doing really well. It actually topped Marvel and DC in terms of selling charts. Like, they were doing that well back then. But let's be honest, Marvel was always the most popular, right? Like, Marvel's been around for years. Image back in the 90s, they were kind of like the new upstart. They weren't as popular. So, with a crossover like Backlash and Spider-Man, Brett Booth could have easily made this, or really shown more praise to Spider-Man in this book. Like, easily, because he's a more popular character. They could have easily shown Spider-Man more praise. They could have made Backlash and Taboo, like the shadow characters, the background characters that kind of just help Spider-Man out. They could have made Spider-Man the star of the show easily. The thing that I love about this book is that Brett Booth actually does make an effort to make his own characters interesting to the readers who have never read Backlash. Because let's be honest, people who are fans of Marvel Comics, they're reading this probably just for Spider-Man and Venom. They don't know who Backlash is. They don't know who Taboo is. Kind of like how I was when I first read this crossover. I didn't know who these characters were. I only read this because it was a Spider-Man crossover and that Venom was in it. But the thing that Brett Booth does so well is that he actually tries to make his own original characters in this crossover interesting and stand out by giving them some background story and some personality. The whole thing about how Taboo explains, them being Backlash were on the run for so many years, and that how her dad was this alcoholic who, didn't really get over her mother's death, and he just really does a good job of making his own characters stand out in this crossover comic book with Spider-Man. So I really like that. And this again, like I said before, this crossover book was responsible for me even getting into Backlash and Image Comics in general. If it wasn't for this crossover, I'd probably still be reading Spider-Man comics and Darkhawk comics to this day. So I wouldn't have branched out and I wouldn't have gotten into other comic book companies. So I've got a lot of, this crossover has done a lot. So anyways, I will be reviewing issue 2. I'm probably going to make a third video about this crossover too, just because I feel like this crossover deserves to be talked about way more. Because, everybody's always talking about Spider-Man and Batman, or, Spider-Man and Batman, Superman and Spider-Man. you know, all those more popular crossovers. A lot of these don't get talked about a lot. These Image and Marvel crossovers, and it's a real shame because some of them are pretty good, especially this one. So yeah. So anyways, this has been Dark Storm Comic Reviews. Hopefully I did a good job explaining this book to you guys. But anyways, yep. This is Dark Storm Comic Reviews signing off.